everyone, or welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Maria. I'm still pretty new to booktube, so if you do want to check out some more of my videos, I will link them down in the description box below. As you'll have seen from the title of this video, today I'm going to show you me shopping in London for some books, as well as do a haul at the end. I'm quite lucky in the fact that I can go to London quite often for my job, so sometimes I'll have customer meetings and things like that, and it means I have to go over to London to stay for a night or two. I do have quite a good idea of some of the bookstores there. I would love any recommendations if anyone lives in London or in and around London of good bookstores that I should visit while I'm there. In today's video I will show you some b-roll of us in London. I was there this time actually just for fun. It was my husband's birthday, so we decided to have a weekend away, and he was very nice and agreed to go to a lot of the bookshops with me. In fact, he insisted, so this haul is his fault. I take no blame whatsoever in terms of the books that I purchased. And yeah, so now I'll insert some of the b-roll from my shopping days in London. So I've just put a couple of the days together, showed you some of the bookstores that we visited and a little bit of London sightseeing in there as well. And yeah, once you've watched that, I'll show you the haul. the B-roll, one of our first stops was Waterstones in Piccadilly. It's my absolute favourite place to go in London, and I know it is a bigger store, and I do want to try and find more independent, smaller bookshops in London as well, but there's just something about the Waterstones in Piccadilly that it's a real happy place for me. Obviously it's like 5 floors of books, so basically any type of book that you could be looking for will be there, and every time I go to London it's usually pretty handy for where I stay to be able to go in there, and if I only have an hour or two I'll usually go there to kill some time, go to the cafe, browse a certain floor, because it is so big you will not get the whole store done within a couple of hours. But yeah, so our first stop was Waterstones, and when I went in, one of the first things I treated myself to was one of their totes. So I do have a tote here, but it's one of the smaller ones, so I decided to get one of the bigger ones there. And usually I would be more of a neutrals girl in terms of colouring and things that I wear, but when I seen this kind of moss green grey colour, I just really liked it, and I really liked the picture on it of London as well, so it was just a nice little souvenir. And for Waterstones, I have been collecting my points for quite some time, so I had around £40 on my loyalty card. So again, it was like free books. I know it's not free books, but it felt like it was free books, so I did end up picking up 3 books while I was there. A couple of them were not so much out of my comfort zone, but just genres perhaps that I maybe don't read as often. So the first one is Kings of the Wild by Nicholas Eames, and this one, I haven't heard a lot of people talk about it. I think it was one booktuber, Sydney, who I'll link her channel below just because that's where I heard about this book from, who mentioned it, and it just sounded like it was going to be really fun. It doesn't have romance as far as I know in there or anything, but the premise of the book is there's all these kind of warriors who I imagine are maybe in their 40s and 50s, so they're a little bit past it in terms of their old activities. So it says on here, glory never gets old. But in terms of that, they've kind of, you know, settled down. They're having a slower pace of life, but I believe one of their daughters perhaps needs help. So the premise of the book is they get the old band together, go on this last quest to save, I'm not sure if it's one of their daughters or something like that, but basically they need to go on this last quest, kind of like their final blowout. And I've just heard it's really funny, quite character driven, which is exactly what I love in a story. Most of the time I'm reading a book for the characters. Yes, I do want a strong plot and I do want romance, but generally my love for a book, and the ones that get 5 stars, are the ones who had characters that really spoke to me and that I really rooted for. So really excited to read this one, mainly as I say because it's slightly different to the books that I would normally read. Yes, it's kind of in that fantasy genre, but it seems like it's going to be straight up kind of more high fantasy than what I usually read. So yeah, really excited to read this one. The next one is one you'll definitely have heard of, and that's the Burn the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. Now this one is one that I've seen going around, as I say, for a couple of years, so it's one that you definitely will have heard of, and I believe it centres around Russian folklore. I think it follows our main young protagonist, Fascia, who she's grew up on these stories of folklore, but she can kind of see dead people, I believe, or ghosts within her home, and she can see dark forces that are coming to kind of attack their way of life. So I'm really interested to read this one. There's reviews by Naomi Novik and Robin Hobb on here, who are 2 writers that I really love. They're very different, but Naomi Novik I would say is probably the closest in vibes from what I understand to this, so really excited to see how this one goes. And then the last one is one that I haven't heard anything about. I literally seen the cover, looked it up on Goodreads, seen what kind of rating it had, and read a little bit of the premise and just decided to take a chance on it. Again, because I had the £40 on my bonus card, it kind of felt like it didn't matter if it didn't meet my expectations, but it seemed to get good reviews. So it's A Promise of Fire by Amanda Bouquet, and it's part of the Kingmaker Chronicles. So this is book 1, and just to give you a bit of an idea of what it's about: Kingmaker, soothsayer, warrior, mage, kingdoms would rise and fall for her if she is ever found. In the icy north, where magic is might, an all-powerful elite, ruthlessly guided by a glacial queen, has grown to dominate the world. Now rebellion is stirring in the magic-poor south, where for the first time in memory, a warlord has succeeded in uniting the tribal nations. Stuck in the middle is Cat, circus performer and soothsayer, safely hidden behind the harmless illusion of the circus, until someone suspects she is more than she seems. Captured by the southern warlord Griffin, Cat's careful camouflage is wearing thin for how long she can conceal the true extent of her power. Faced with the dragons, rival gods and traitorous longings of her own heart, she must decide is it time to claim her destiny and fight. So it just sounded really good. It sounded like it was something that was going to kind of be multi-layered. You were going to get reveals as you went along with the story. Sounds like there's probably going to be romance in there, I'm guessing, with this Southern Warlord Griffin, potentially. And it was a really floppy copy as well, so that was kind of the final decider that it was something I was going to be bringing home with me. And then, as you'll have seen, we did venture up to Cecil Court, which is basically a street full of kind of bookshops, old bookshops, antique shops and things like that. So it was definitely somewhere I wanted to visit while we were over there. I think the first shop we went into was Goldsborough, and I definitely wanted to visit there because, as you can see, I do like a lot of special editions, and I was really hoping to get something there, but to be honest, I was a little bit disappointed in the selection that they had. There wasn't really much there that was enticing to me, or if there was anything that I was interested in, it was very expensive. And don't get me wrong, I don't mind paying a premium for special edition books, but when you start getting into the multi-hundreds, that's when I kind of draw the line, unless it's like an antique first edition of something. That's where I kind of draw the line at the pricing. But then we did go into the next bookstore, which I believe is Watkins and Co. or something like that. And it turned out to be a non-fiction bookstore, which my husband enjoyed because he likes a bit more non-fiction than me. But for me, there wasn't really anything there to choose from. But I did see this cute little bookmark. So at least I got something from there. So it was something to just kind of have a souvenir from Cecil Court. Again, there was another bookstore that we went into, so Alice Through the Looking Glass. And I was so tempted. There was a couple of copies of, I believe it was from the 70s, of Alice in Wonderland and Alice Through the Looking Glass. So it's one of my favourite stories from growing up, and these editions were really, really pretty. They were basically replicas of the first editions. They had been widely kind of published in the 70s, so they're quite rare. And to be fair, for the age of them and for kind of the value that they will hold, they weren't that expensive. But I decided to pass on them. I'll probably still be thinking about them. I was very, very close to purchasing them. I decided to leave them there. But yeah, they had a lot of options in there. Of, you know, there was a couple of first editions of Alice in Wonderland, so I think from like 1860s. So yeah, if you're interested in anything like that, there was quite a few shops there that had rare books and first editions of some really famous books. So definitely worth a visit, even if you don't plan on purchasing them, because again, they're a little bit on the pricey side, but it's definitely worth a visit just to go and see. I did, however, have a bit more luck in the next few shops that we went to visit. So the first one was Daunt books. So I do have a bigger tote from them, but I decided to get a smaller one this time because it's usually just a bit easier to put in a handbag if you're going book shopping, or I mean, I use them for all types of shopping, but generally if I'm going to Waterstones, I'm going to need a tote because I'm usually not leaving without a book. So with Daunt books, in the Marylebone shop, they have it categorized as, they do have a few different fiction sections and things like that, so you can just look at the general fiction, but they also have the back section organized by geography, so it can be books that are by a writer from that country, or set in that country, or about that country. So it can be a little bit difficult to pinpoint exactly what you're looking for, but if you're like me and you're happy to just kind of browse what's there, it's a really nice experience. It's a really nice bookstore. We were there on a Saturday, so it was exceptionally busy. I usually go during the week when I'm in London with work, so it tends to be a little bit quieter through the week. But on a Saturday, as most stores will be, it was really, really busy. So it's a little bit hard to get around when it is in those busy times. But I did manage to pick up one book, which is one that has been kind of on my radar for quite a while. And I'm not sure why I haven't picked it up yet, because it does sound really good. But basically, it's The Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. And this one, it's kind of similar, I think, in terms of premise to, maybe not similar in terms of premise, but I think the vibes of this may be similar to The Starless Sea. It's set in a library in Barcelona. There's a young boy called Daniel, and he's allowed to pull one book, and it's called The Shadow of the Wind. But as he grows up, several people seem inordinately interested in his find. What begins as a case of literary curiosity turns into a race to discover the truth about the life and death of Julian Carax, and to save those left behind. It's a book about a book, and for some reason those types of stories just really hit with me. So I'm really excited to read this one. Again, it's an author I haven't read from before, but this one seems to get a lot of notoriety kind of in the literary world, so I'm really, really interested to read this one. And I actually love the cover of this. It's quite minimal, but it just really gives, you know, great vibes in terms of what the stories want to be about. So yeah, really excited to read this one. And then our last stop on the bookshop tour, basically, of London was Hatchards, and I actually cannot believe that in all the times I've been in London, I haven't come across this store before, especially as apparently it's pitted as the oldest bookstore in the UK. So not sure how, when I was googling different bookstores to go to the few times that I've been there, that it didn't come up. But Hatchards is actually just up the road from Waterstones Piccadilly, so we decided to go in there as well, as I say, just around a kind of the book tour that we've done of kind of the central London circuit. And there were a couple of books in there again that kind of caught my eye. The first one being The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. So again, this is one that's been on my radar for quite some time, and I think this follows a young girl who goes into military academy, military school. And I believe this one's actually quite dark, so it's not your normal kind of mentor-mentee relationship, you know, bringing out the best in a person. I think it is quite dark. I think it kind of runs themes of racism, colonialism and things like that. So I've heard this one can be a pretty tough read. This one and kind of the series can be a pretty tough read, but I think I'm going to try and pick it up soon because it is a series that I've really wanted to read, and so far with R.F. Kuang I've really enjoyed her writing. So yeah, really hopeful that this is one that I'm going to enjoy. And the last book I picked up, again, it's one that I've kind of heard of, but it's not one that I really knew too much about before picking it up. And that's The Devil Makes Three by Tori Bavellino. And this one, kind of the premise of it is basically these two people stumble upon this book, and essentially it's an ancient text and it's holding the devil captive. Somehow they inadvertently release the devil and they go on a quest to try and trap him in the book again, and it just sounds like it's going to be pretty dark, probably a little bit gothic. The blurb on it says, "A glorious, darkly atmospheric journey into the disturbing power of books, ink and the horrors that live inside them." So it just sounds like it's going to be really good, and yet again, it's a book about a book. I think there's a theme here. You can probably see a theme when I'm talking about some of the types of stories that I like to read. But yeah, so really excited to read that one. I'm not too sure when I'm going to get to this one, to be honest. It's probably not high priority for me, but it's definitely one that I think would maybe be a fun read in the fall as well. So yeah, really excited for this one, and it's actually signed, which is kind of part of the reason I decided to pick it up. So that's everything that I got while I was shopping in London. You will probably see it'll either be up already or I will be putting it up. I did do quite a big haul recently in terms of books, so I think there was around 9 or 10 books. In this one we've totaled at 6. So this is my stack that I got from London. I had to kind of limit myself, but I think 6 is a pretty decent number to be carrying home, and a pretty decent haul. So really happy with the selections that I got. As I say, if you do have any recommendations for independent bookshops especially that you love in London or within that area, please do put them in the comments below. I do go, as I say, for work quite often, so it would be great to give some of the more independent stores some support. But yeah, other than that, if you did like this video, it would be great if you could give it a like and subscribe. I'd love for you to join my little community that I'm building here. If you have any suggestions for further videos that you'd like to see from me, please do let me know in the comments, and I will leave some of my other videos in the description box. Other than that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!